Welcome all of you. We shall see the next part of material balance. In the previous lecture we have seen how a process is classified. Process can be classified on the basis how a mass enter into the system. Now we are going to see the process classification on the basis how a variable changes in the process or changes to the process variable. Depending upon that, processes can be classified as steady state, unsteady state process. So we will see one by one in detail what exactly is a steady state process and unsteady state process. So first, steady state process. So in a steady state process, we know that all of the operating conditions like temperature, pressure, volume, composition, flow rate all remain constant. Okay, these all process variables remain constant, that is they do not vary with time, they do not change with time. That is the process. During the process, all the operating conditions, okay, all the operating conditions like temperature, pressure, volume, composition, so these are the process variable which do not change with time, and therefore we can say that when this process variable do not change with time, then this could be applied, or the steady state could be a continuous process. Okay, continuous process. In a continuous process actually runs under steady state condition. Okay, so all the operating conditions, all the process variables remain steady or remain constant whenever any process is running under continuous way. Okay, when the process is running under steady state condition, we can say that all the process variable remain steady or constant. Okay, and you know that whenever a process is running under steady state condition, or whenever the process is a continuous process, then there occur no accumulation in the system whenever we are performing the material balance calculation, since there is a input to the system and the same amount of substance come out of the or leave the system. So you can say that there is no accumulation term involved in the material balance calculation equation. Okay, so accumulation is absent, or accumulation is zero, since there is an input, chemicals are entering into the system and chemicals are leaving the system, or you can say that matter or mass is entering into the system and it is leaving into the system. So whatever the chemical reaction or any physical change or chemical change that may be taking on chemical may take within that period of time during its flow, and then the chemical finally come as a product, or chemical as a product that may come out from the system. So we can say at the end of the process there is no accumulation, or during the process there is no accumulation occurs in the system or in the process, and therefore we can say that continuous processes actually runs under steady state condition, or that steady state condition is that condition in which all of the process variable, okay, all of the process variable or all the operating conditions remain constant with time. Okay, with time. So this is the equation that we have to adopt whenever we are performing material balance calculation on steady state processes. So here you can see that initially the input, that is 100 kg water, enters into the system, process takes place, and instantly all of the constituent is, or same amount of constituent is taken from the system. That is, input always is equal to output. Since here in this case we can say that there occurs no accumulation. Okay, there occurs no accumulation, or we have assumed that in a continuous process there occurs no accumulation in the system, and therefore this is operating under steady state condition. Now the next one is the transient or unsteady state operation, or unsteady state process or process. So here, in contrast to the steady state process, we can say that all the process variable, okay, process variable or all the operating conditions in the unsteady state, or whenever the process is operating under unsteady state way, then in that case all the process variable, that is temperature, pressure, composition, flow rate, vary. Okay, it does vary depending upon, okay, depending upon what kind of process that one is. The temperature may vary. For example, in isothermal condition, the temperature remains constant. In isobaric condition, the pressure remains constant, but temperature changes. So you can say that whatever the process that is operating on a system, that depending upon that, this process variable change. Okay, this process variable change. So we can say that that particular process is operating under unsteady state condition. Okay, unsteady state condition, that any of the process variable is not remaining constant. In that situation, we can say that it is operating under unsteady state process. That is one of the process variable, or one or more process variable may be getting varied during the process. Okay, during the process, and therefore we can say that it is a unsteady state process. So we can say finally that process variable do not remain constant with time. That is, as the time passes on, or as the time, or in the course of time, or over the time, we can say that this process variable continuously keep on changing. Okay, keep on changing. So we can say here one more thing, that this unsteady state process or operation mostly preferred or mostly followed by batch and semi batch processes. Okay, batch and semi batch processes actually operate at unsteady state condition. Okay, unsteady state condition. As we know that in a batch process, the matter or substance enters into the system, and it get remain in the system, or there is a some residence period. During that period, chemical or physical change takes place in a chemical, and once this has been completed, we take all the chemical or all the product all at a time. So during its stay, that the matter stay in the system, what happened, these variables changes. Okay, variable have to change. Okay, in order to suit to the condition, variables have to change in order to complete that process. Okay, in order to complete that process, that is, the system has to come from one state to another state. Okay, one state to another state, and therefore this process variable changes. Okay, this process variable changes during that period. So we can say that batch and semi-batch processes are operating actually under unsteady state condition. Similarly, you can take the example semi-batch. In a semi-batch process, suppose there is only a input or a output. So if there is an input to a system, then which is operating under semi-batch condition, we can say that the volume or the pressure changes with the time. Okay, volume or the pressure changes with the time. Similar in the batch process also, we introduce the feed material, volume increases, pressure changes. Then as the process goes on until its completion, what happened, the temperature may also follow a changes. So we can say that in a batch process as well as in a semi-batch process, these process variable continuously vary with the time. Okay, it vary with the time, and therefore whenever there is a process which is having variable changes in the course of time, then we can say that that process is operating under unsteady state condition. Unsteady state condition. Batch and semi-batch processes actually operate under unsteady state condition. So you can say that we can say that here in the material balance calculation equation, accumulation terms is predominant, because mass enters into the system, it remains there for some period of time. It may be converted into some sort of other product, chemicals or product, what we can say. So there is a accumulation term. Okay, so there is an accumulation term involved in the material balance calculation equation. Okay, so here you can say that input minus output is equal to accumulation. That is, accumulation is a term that is a part of this equation. Okay, so this remains with the equation. Okay, accumulation happens or accumulation takes place as the feed material remains in a system, and it get converted into certain product. Suppose that product remain in a system, so accumulation term you cannot rule out, or you cannot rule out here, I must say. You cannot rule out this accumulation term in the equation, and therefore the material balance equation for unsteady state, or a process which is operating under unsteady state condition, or for the same batch or semi batch process, the accumulation term is involved. That is, input minus output is equals to accumulation. So here you can see that initially, suppose 100 kg of water enter into the system, then similarly it follows 90 kg of water leaves the system. So continuously what happens here, water get accumulated in the system. So a chance may occur there that the if we continuously if we do it like this one, then water may spill the reactor, or water may spill that unit. Okay, that unit. So we can say here we cannot rule out the accumulation term. Okay, we cannot rule out the accumulation term whenever the process is operating under unsteady state condition. So here you can see that the accumulation is going on, accumulation of the substance or matter is going on. A condition may arise that this substance or a matter may spill the process unit. So here we can say a negative accumulation. Okay, negative accumulation, that means 90 kg of water is entering into the system, and it leaves, okay, it leaves 100 kg of water from the system. So we can say here that negative accumulation. Now we shall now discuss those points whatever we have till now learned in order to classify the some examples, and some examples into as steady state process, batch process. All this what we have learned till now, will classify certain examples with respect to that one. Why? You know that there are few examples which actually occurs in our day-to-day life, and we have to classify them. Actually we should have to classify them in what way this can be done. So a first example if we take here is a filling a car tire with air. Okay, filling a car tire with air. This is what we say, we are very much familiar with this example. Okay, actually everyone do everyone is having vehicle, and they fill their tire with air. So you have to classify exactly what kind of this process is. Okay, what kind of process is, as well as how would you classify this process actually with respect to what we have learned so far. Okay, so filling a car tire with air, as you know that material, that is the air, crosses the boundary. Okay, it crosses the boundary. So we can say that crosses the boundary of the system and enter into the system. So we can say that filling air in the car tire is a open system. Okay, similarly there is either a input or a output. That means we are filling a air into it, but there is no output, that is air is not coming out of the tire and leaving the tire, and therefore this is a semi batch process, or it is operating under it is a semi batch process. Moreover, as the air enters into the tire, what happens, pressure increases as well as volume changes. That is volume, pressure, these parameters or these variables changes with time. Okay, changes with time, and therefore we can say that this is a unsteady state condition. Okay, this is a unsteady state condition. So we have classified this familiar example with what we have learned so far. Okay, open system, same batch process, and operating under unsteady state condition. Okay, so we shall take the next example right now. Bottle of a cold juice left on a table. Okay, bottle of a cold juice left on a table. So just assume yourself that material doesn't cross the system boundary. Okay, material doesn't cross the system boundary. That means once the material is taken in a bottle, even although it is a cold one or a hot one, suppose whatever it may be. So once the material is taken in the bottle, it is a cold one, of course. Here material, once the material enter into the system, we do not allow the material to cross the system boundary again. Okay, so we can say that it is a system where it do not allow any material to cross the system boundary again. So we can say that this is a closed system. There is no input or output once the material enter into the system, so it is operating, it is act as a batch process. Okay, it act as a batch process. Moreover, as you know that this is a cold juice of bottle, whenever there is a batch process, then there is no chance for a mass to enter into the system, but the energy can be exchanged. Okay, energy can be exchanged. So the cold juice of bottle, this cold juice of bottle may come to its what we say room temperature. Okay, it may come to its room temperature, and therefore this happens only when the energy is exchanged. This cold the cold bottle becomes little hot. Okay, it can be little hot, or it may come to its room temperature, whatever the room condition exists at that it comes after some period of time. This is possible only when the energy is exchanged. Okay, when the energy is exchanged. So we can say that the temperature, okay, the temperature of the system vary with time. Okay, the temperature of the system vary with time. That is, the cold juice of bottle come to the room temperature. Okay, or it retains the temperature of the temperature what that exists in the room. Okay, so temperature changes, and therefore it is a unsteady state operation. Okay, it's a unsteady state operation or process. So here, next example, water flowing through a smooth pipe of fixed diameter. Okay, water is flowing through a smooth pipe of fixed diameter. So here there is a continuous input. Okay, there is a continuous input of a material, as well as there is a continuous output of a material. That is, the water flow through the pipe, and similarly it leaves the pipe. Therefore it is a open system. Okay, it's a open system. There is no band for a material to cross the system boundary, and therefore it's an open system. And when we talk about whether it is operating under batch or continuous or semi-batch process, we can say that it is operating under continuous. It is a continuous process, since it allows a material to enter into the system. Moreover, it remains there during the flow in the pipe. It remains during the flow in the pipe, and suddenly it comes out of the pipe. We can say that this is a continuous process. Okay, this is a continuous process. That is, there is a both input as well as output. Material remains for a while in a pipe, and then it leaves the pipe. We can say that there is an input as well as output, so it's a continuous process. And here there is no process variable change. Okay, any process variable do not change. Okay, no process variables do not change with time. Okay, do not change with time. The flow remains constant. Okay, the flow through a pipe remain constant. If you take a section, you would see that if you take any section where you would see that the water is flowing at the same rate, the pressure in the pipe remains same, volume occupied by water remains same, and therefore we can say that all the process variable do not vary with time. Okay, do not vary with time. It remains steady throughout the process, and therefore we can say that it is operating under steady state condition. It is operating under steady state condition.